Hi, I'm Adam Cook, and I'm a Drake student living in the middle of the Iowa Caucasus. College students, while we may seem very politically active, actually vote at a lower rate than many other generations. But our issues are still important. So that's why I wanted to sit down with presidential candidates and talk to them about how their platforms are going to include issues that affect young people. And we gotta have a little bit of fun along the way. So as the first Democratic candidate to announce, you've been in the state for a while. What have you learned about Iowa, and what have you learned about Iowans?
Well, I've learned that Iowans take their politics very seriously, so it's not surprising that a really smart Drake student comes out on a Saturday morning to interview me, because you're from Iowa.
Yes.
So you're very much like most Iowans, right? You take your politics really seriously. And I think if more of the country could see this, they would be more comfortable with the caucus process. Because to some extent, what Iowans realize is that they have a stewardship responsibility, is probably the best way to describe it, where they actually have to get to know the candidates. They have to figure out what's in our heads, meaning what are our ideas, but they also try to figure out what's in our hearts, meaning why do we want to do this. So that's probably the thing that comes out most for me about Iowans, in addition to Iowa nice and the fact that the people are all very polite and cordial. They really take this job very seriously.
Thank you.
Well, so I've been around the whole state. So I've been to all 99 counties in Iowa. And I think my favorite thing is visiting a lot of the small towns in Iowa, which I'm not sure how many of the Drake students have had an opportunity to do that yet, particularly if they're not from Iowa. But there's so many wonderful small towns. And a lot of them are struggling, though. And that's what you see when you visit them. I mean, a lot of these towns used to have more vibrant and diverse economies. But with all the changes that's happened in the world, a lot of their economic engines have been hollowed out. And you see a lot of these towns shrinking and getting much older. And it's put huge strain on a lot of the healthcare and educational systems. So I think one of the things I've really focused on is trying to revitalize, or policies that revitalize rural America, the heartland. And that's been, I've seen that very clearly when you go around Iowa. So that's one of the things. The other thing that gets me about Iowa is how good the education system is. There's a lot of great community college, a lot of great universities. I've been to a lot of them. I've been to Drake. I gave a presentation at Drake, something called America 2030, where I talked about the future, where we're going. I did that last year, and I've been really impressed with all of the colleges, both community colleges and four-year colleges I've been in Iowa.
Great, thank you very much. That's a great transition, because now we're moving into student types of issues. Issues often portray students as single-issue voters who only care about student loan debt. And while that issue is very important, and I'd love to see it resolved, other issues impact students like myself, like healthcare, climate change, and a number of any other issues, really. How will you approach students and treat students as a multi-issue voter? How will you approach and treat students? How will you approach and treat student voters as multi-issue voters?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I find it when I go on campuses, students care about foreign policy. They don't want us to be in a bunch of wars forever. They care about climate, obviously. They care about, are they going to have opportunities, right? What the economy is going to be like. They care about a lot of social justice issues. They hold a lens of justice up to how they look at the world, maybe more than other people do. So I think students care a lot about a lot of issues, and it's good that they do. The message that I have to students is you should care about deeds, not words. And what I mean by that is the people who are most impacted by the federal government's either dysfunction, or hopefully if the federal government can get its act together, are our students. In other words, for you and your colleagues to have the world that I think you deserve, a world where the environment is sustainable, a world where we do have some measure of peace and security around the world, a world where there are opportunities for young people in all the communities in this country, not just 5 or 6 big cities. For us to create that future, we actually have to do some things. We actually have to do some things. And, there's a lot of talk in these political campaigns, but we haven't seen a lot of action in Washington. So what I think students should really care about is not just how you feel about issues. Every Democrat running for president is very good on climate change, for example. all of us have great plans. But if I were advising students, I'd say what you should really drill in on is how are they going to make it happen? Because your generation can't afford for us to be talking about climate change in 10 years. We have to actually start doing something on climate change next year. And that, I think, is the lens that all students should look at all of these issues, which is, yeah, it's great for you to tell me what you want to do, but also tell me how you're going to make it happen. Because the problem in our society over the last several decades is we haven't done anything. We've been arguing, we've been fighting, politicians have been giving speeches, but there hasn't been a lot of action. And that's really, to me, the rallying cry of this next generation. Just get things done.
Great, thank you. Health is an important part of healthcare, and students specifically have a few issues that are a little bit more unique to them than other members of the population. Especially when we're talking about issues like FOMO, that's short for the fear of missing out. And at Drake University, more specifically, we have something called Drake Busy. That's the idea that students are stretching ourselves thin and being almost a little too involved. But while I've noticed that these are issues mostly related to students, as I've been involved in the caucus process, those seem like issues that affect presidential candidates as well. Can you talk about that as an issue and maybe how that helps students and candidates relate?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think social media, which has been an enormous blessing in many ways, because it's opened up societies and connected us in ways none of us could imagine. It allows you and I to have this conversation and you to get it out to so many people very easily. So it's been enormously positive, has come with some downsides, right? Teen anxiety is way up. You know, young people who haven't quite become fully secure in who they are see other people doing things and they do think they're missing out. The grass is always greener is a very old expression, but it actually applies. People look at their device and they just think other people's lives are better than their own when in fact they're not. And so social media makes it really difficult. And I think young people, I think parents, I think teachers have had a hard time adapting to the social media world and making sure that our young people are really prepared, which is one of the reasons I've actually called for there to be curriculum in public education around how digital literacy, if you will, preparing people for this. But yeah, I think there are a lot of parallels. I mean, you know, candidates, particularly these days, every state in the country is always having a state party dinner. They're having some kind of an event on climate change or gun safety or whatever the case may be. And we want to be in all these places, but of course, we can't be in all these places. We do tend to overschedule ourselves. It's really important, and I'll tell you a quick story if I have time.
Of course, yeah.
So several years ago, I met a gentleman who lives not too far from here named Warren Buffett. You know who Warren Buffett is. And I was with a group of about 20 people having lunch with Warren Buffett, and everyone could ask him a question. And someone asked him a question. They said, "How do you spend your time?" And Mr. Buffett said, "You know, about 50 years ago, I realized that I was a very good thinker. That I wasn't necessarily good at everything, but I was very good at thinking things through. And so for the last 50 years, I've organized my life so that I spend 3 hours every morning from 8:30 to 11:30 when I'm in Omaha, sitting alone in my office, reading, thinking, writing in my journal, and just making sure he organizes his thoughts and has time to reflect." And it was really interesting, the reaction of the 20 people having lunch with him, because you could look at all of our faces, and we were all saying to ourselves, none of us do that, right? We're all so busy and frenetic, trying to be everywhere and do everything and respond to everything right away and look back, that it's a great reminder, whether you're a Drake student or whether you're someone in your mid-50s running for president of the United States, or you know, a senior who's at a certain part of their life where they're trying to slow down maybe a little bit. But it's important to do things and be active, but it's also important to think and reflect. And I just think that's an important lesson that we all have to make sure we balance in our lives. That everyone spends some time every day kind of reading, thinking, and reflecting. Maybe it's before you go to bed, maybe it's in the morning, whatever the case may be, because that's a big part of life. So that's my story.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, that was a great story.
Yeah.
Of course, as a college student, I have to talk to you about social media. And there's been some pictures of you and some videos of you that have gone around, been a little bit viral. Remember this picture?
I do.
What
Can
are
I
you?
tell you the story behind that?
Of course, yeah.
So this was the fair 2 years ago, and I was with my youngest daughter, who was 9 at the time. And one of our other daughters said, Dad, you and Grace should go on that big slide thing. And Grace is like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, come on, let's do it. So we went up to the top, and we got on our sacks, because it's basically a sack ride down the slide. And she's sitting there saying, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm like, come on, it'll be fun. I'll hold your hand. And we started, and she said, no. And she put her feet down, and she put her hands down, and she stopped up there. And then I went down by myself while Grace was sitting up.
Funny.
Yeah. So whenever that picture comes up, because it comes up a lot,
I'm sure it does.
I say, Grace. She's like, I'm sorry, I would have gone with you.
Yeah,
so that's where that
funny.
came from. Yeah.
And then the other one is a few days ago you also posted a video of you deadlifting, I believe.
Yes.
You want to just comment on that a little bit? I know that, for sure that was something not every candidate usually, we weren't necessarily going to be expecting.
It was a weird thing. It was like this past winter, and I was out, I don't know who it was, they challenged me to do like 10 chin-ups and 10 deadlifts. It was someone who I met out on the campaign. So I was actually in the gym, and was with someone, and I said, oh, let me respond to this thing. So I did the 10 chin-ups, and then I did the 10 deadlifts, and we posted it.
I think that's so fun, because, there's some candidates...
And then someone just wrote a story about candidates working out, and I think they pulled those. I don't think anyone saw it when I posted it. The original post was like a year ago. People saw it, but someone just wrote a story about candidates working out, and they put it in the story. I think it was Men's Health or something, and that got a lot more coverage. So that's not a recent video. It's
really?
It's a year-old video. Yeah.
I'm like,
It's on the campaign trail, but it wasn't done like last week. Yeah.
So within the Iowa Caucus Project, we love looking at stories that not every medium covers. So that's such an interesting thing that you wouldn't.
There's
see
always
with
a
most.
story behind everything. Whether it's me going down the slide, with my daughter kind of abandoning me at the top of it because she was afraid to go down it, or whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Well, I have one last little final one for you.
We have the opportunity to share who we are and how we want people to see us on social media. This is very notably done through descriptions on our social media accounts. I'm going to read off your Twitter description. Dad of 4 daughters, married to April. Blue-collar kid / successful entrepreneur / CEO / congressman. 2020 candidate running on real solutions, not impossible promises. Can you talk to me about your Twitter description and how you believe that informs voters about yourself?
The most important thing in my life is my family, by any measure. I'm very blessed to be happily married to an amazing woman. We've been married for 30 years, and I have 4 terrific daughters. So that was the first thing I put, obviously. So that shows you what my highest priority is. And I think it said blue-collar kid, entrepreneur, all that stuff. I've done a lot of different things with my life.
Yes.
I was the first in my family to go to college. I became the youngest CEO in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. Then I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to public service, and I ran for office. It's a very unusual background. And I want people to know that I've had a lot of experiences in life. And I think that's important, because if you're going to be the President of the United States, you shouldn't be a one-trick pony. You should understand how government works. You should understand how the private economy works. You should understand what it's like to be part of a real working class family trying to get ahead. And I think no one has that background running for president. And then I think, as I said to you earlier, I think what your generation needs is for us to actually do some things. That means solving problems. Not talking about problems, solving problems. You don't solve problems with pie-in-the-sky ideas. You solve problems with real solutions. Right, and that's what my campaign is about.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It was great. Great doing this interview. This was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks.